the labor report, which shockingly enough in the Joe Biden economy came in far less than expected, not even meeting up to the Goldman Sachs Federal Reserve insider expectations. As you can see, silver shooting up on the news, spiking from 23.50-ish over the $23 level. Although if you remove a little more space dust, well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics on an exciting day in the silver market following the labor report, which shockingly enough in the Joe Biden economy came in far less than expected, not even meeting up to the Goldman Sachs Federal Reserve insider expectations. As you can see, silver shooting up on the news, spiking from 23.50-ish over the $23 level. Although if you remove a little more space dust, you see that somehow there was another wild shift in the market as the price came right back down. And we're going to dig into all of that today because it is some pretty exciting dynamics at play there. First, before we do that, a quick thank you to Silver Viper for bringing you today's episode as they provide exploration updates from their La Virginia project. Drilling continues to test external and internal targets along the El Ruby structure. Prospecting activities continue to advance the La Colmena zone, and Silver Viper anticipates deployment of deep penetrating Titan 160 ground-based geophysical survey in late October. I don't have the first clue what that means, but it sounds darn cool. And fortunately, what a glorious life. I can manage to be this ignorant about details like that and still have a great shot of coming out ahead. No financial advice. Obviously, I'm not licensed for anything like that. But I just instead found Steve Koch, who runs Silver Viper, who has figured out all that stuff. And fortunately, if you want more information, you can go to the Silver Viper website at silverviperminerals.com and hit the contact tab where he could tell you all about that, and or even get on their mailing list so you get the updates. But with that said, let's get to the action, because while the S&P is flat on Friday after a disappointing jobs report and heads for a winning week. So disappointing jobs report, obviously on Wall Street, that would translate for massive success. And you can see why the silver price would be down. Now, let me give my explanation of what I think Wall Street is selling in their bait and switch, which continues on. Geez, I thought I was done with this 10 years ago. Although, unfortunately, we're still dragging them out of the matrix until the silver market is repriced, is my commitment. Once we break 50, though, you may be on your own, but I think we might be closer to 50 than you would think, even despite today's shenanigans. In fact, as I was mentioning to someone earlier today, as aggravating as it can be emotionally at times, if we allow it to be, isn't this kind of what you would expect before this whole thing finally unraveled, where just like, I mean, it was always wacky and rigged and fraudulent, but I mean, they've taken it to a new level since the February 1st silver squeeze, where silver shot through $30 for a couple of hours. Ross Benham was shitting his pants. The MRAC committee was crying in their soup because Goldman Sachs, they had to bring Jeff Curry out of the closet to go lie on 2 channels while he was in between changing the prospectus of the SLV funds, just because they were that scared of running out of metal. And then here we are months later, actual physical silver demand has kept up strong while we see the price is going down. Although, as David Stein mentioned on the show Friday, making it awfully hard for the silver supply to keep up. So a lot of dynamics at play there. And then you have that inside the Fed charade. So the Fed had sold the idea of tapering, that they were going to taper. So they said that. Then when their meeting came, they said, well, we're close, but not quite yet. And then now when you set up those dynamics, so here S&P is flat on Friday after the disappointing jobs report, there's confusion perceived in the marketplace of what's actually real, the actual people's money that the government is trying to swindle here. There's confusion amongst them because it's saying now, well, if the jobs report was worse, does that mean the economy is weak and the Fed will continue printing money? Now, on the other hand, some people say, hey, well, look at those bond yields. Look at that. Look at that thing fly, getting clobbered again today. Let's take a look at the 1 month. Because here's the bond yield chart. Over 1.6% could be called a resistance level to some. Let's take a look back at the 6 months. Okay. So from last August, here are at 1.15, but really, or this August rather. So, wow, that is a blowout move. We'll see if it shoots through that 160 level at some point today. This is 1:25 p.m. Eastern. So there's still a couple hours left for investors to flee out of the US bond market. Are you seeing now how all of these different elements of the Ponzi scheme fit together to create the behemoth? It's so wild and unbelievable. I can understand that, but nonetheless, that is how it is constructed. So now money is flying out of the bond market. But the only reason that the yields were so low to begin with was because the Fed was buying all the bonds. So if yields are skyrocketing, who's selling their bonds or who is not buying new bonds to keep up with what the Treasury is issuing? So the Fed, well, they said they were going to taper, then said not yet. Who's selling these bonds or who's not buying the bonds? Did they actually taper and just lie to your face because the US has run out of money? And you see all of these collusive conspiracy signs around the debt ceiling and basically all these things running out of money where people would even believe that a man as foolish as Joe Biden could be capable of running the country. I say the fraud is being exposed. And that's why the price of silver, despite being spoofed higher today, see, look at yesterday's chart. See, it does spoof in both directions. And actually, you see consistent timing right around that 8 o'clock, right after 8 o'clock Eastern, where there was a spoof up, not quite as exacerbated, but they saved that for the big economic reports because then you can do bigger moves, more leverage, steal more money. Now, you would think Ross Benham of the CFTC, who has an investigation ongoing into the silver market, would be all over this. And actually, my guess is that he's all over the profit share of who's winning on some of these trades, which could easily be looked up because they have access to those trading records. So anyway, that's probably all just a bunch of random coincidences. So now we will wait to see which way the Fed's collusive Ponzi scheme of, I mean, talk about you're not allowed to influence market perceptions. Goodness. A bleaker labor picture could stall the Federal Reserve as it prepares to slow its 120 billion. It could. Inflation report, does that come out next week? What are we on? October 8th. Oh, so I believe there will be the fraudulent CPI next week. I'm going to take the over on 6% this time. I know I said that last time and I was wrong last month. I like Ben Bernanke, Hank Paulson, and most of our elected officials, I can admit when I took a guess and I was wrong. Fortunately, I phrased it as a guess, but I'm going to guess over 6% this month, which I think will be next Tuesday. How exciting. If Nibbles hadn't planned a pool party for Saturday, I'd already be waiting for the weekend to end. But the hyperinflationary report, when that comes out, that will be exciting. And we'll see if what happens at 8 o'clock on Eastern time that morning. Yeah, because I believe that one comes out 8:15 Eastern normally. That may or may not be completely accurate, but yeah, so my guess is we'll see one of these, or maybe it'll go up in one direction or down. But I guess in my quest to profitably trade the silver market, you know, one of my favorite takeaways from Susquehanna option trading days, if you know the distribution of anything, if you know the distribution, you can price anything. So I would assert most people think the distribution is whatever CNBC says or whatever the Fed says. Now, it might not be an easy distribution of price, but I know that no matter what they say, it could go randomly up or down in either direction. That makes no fundamental sense. And I've been calibrating my option trading model to capture this. Although I'd say my model's goal at this point is not necessarily to make money whether it goes up or down, but to be positioned for a big move up without just paying constant premium. So I will keep you posted on how that goes. We have a few people interested in that. A lot of projects going on. Also organizing the legal stuff against Ross the Boss, Jeff Curry, and Jamie Dimon. And we'll throw in Solomon, who runs Goldman as well. And also with Silverfest, quick update on that one before we get back to our coverage here, we will be doing Silverfest. Is going to be primarily online. We did not end up getting the big resort in Puerto Vallarta. Although if anyone, there will be some informal gatherings in Sayulita, Mexico. So if you'd like more information, I know it's taken a while and I'll be making a video separately to explain some of these dynamics, but contact Yara, Y-A-R-R-A at arcadiaeconomics.com for more info on that. But one way or another, we will be creating ways for people to get together, whether in person or online, no matter what the COVID, even if COVID eats all the damn airplanes before then, if the internet is working, or even if it's not, I don't know, you hear me talk about silver that much more anyway. It's going to go up at some point when this Ponzi scheme unravels. Here's another interesting one. You may have heard of Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Sheller. I was quite inspired by this man. He was doing pretty much the same thing, but on a U.S. Marine Corps level, where he questioned why a lot of his friends were needlessly killed while the senior officers sat there, collected fat checks, and used our children as battleship tokens. And rather than being commended for having the courage and bravery to stand up like he did on his YouTube channel, he's been jailed. So I'd like to ask if anybody else feels a similar sentiment. You can find this article at Detained Marine Who Criticized Afghan Chaos. May get secret pretrial hearing, but I will be sending some warm energies and prayers to Stuart Sheller. Good God, sir, I admire what you stand for, and at least you have my support, and just wanted to let people know. Quite an inspirational video. He has a YouTube channel that I'd really recommend checking out. All he asked, it's kind of like all I asked from the CFTC, was just be honest with us. That's what he asked on a military level. These are the kind of reasons why, despite the COMEX paper fraudulent silver price, I remain encouraged of what I see happening here. So anyway, Stuart Sheller, check it out on YouTube. Now, before we wrap up, a couple last stories here with this whole inflation thing going on, especially in the context of many of the Fed governors. It turns out that they were completely fraudulent criminals, just real pieces of shit, that they would ram these policies down the country's and the world's throat while they were just front running the whole thing for their own personal glory. That is how a mafia works, ladies and gentlemen, because you need to keep paying off the other people who are protecting you. So a lot of money needs to be stolen. Now here's Fed President Charles Evans, that hopefully Liz Warren will investigate as well, because I don't know him. Hopefully everything he's done is appropriate, but this fool actually sees inflation falling below the central bank's 2% target after the current rise subsides, which is in direct conflict, of course, with what Janet Yellen sees, because she sees inflation staying higher for the next several months. Good Lord, am I actually taking Janet Yellen's side on a debate? Well, I guess when it's against a governor that, let's read about Fed Evans. Oh, inflation could last longer than expected, but he sees it falling below 2%. You let me know when it falls below 2%. Does it say if he was a former Goldman executive? He is on board with the tapering. He said the Fed soon will be facing the familiar challenge of keeping inflation elevated to healthy levels. You know what, Chuck, what is this fucking guy's name? Fuck you, Charles Evans. You're disgusting. Participate in this. What is that stupid quote I just read? I'm comfortable in thinking that these are elevated prices, that they will be coming down as supply bottlenecks are addressed. Addressed how? Exactly how? How are they going to be addressed? You're a liar. You're disgusting, but I'm going to keep myself cool today, even when it's hot outside, because, and actually I'm going to stop reading CNBC. I'm cutting off the juice. Again, I accept if I focus on this, then I'll feel more of this. And I think there's some degree to understand the schemes that are being run, but at some point you get it. Apologize for my language, but I find that type of conduct. But if I have a weakness, kind of like Marty McFly in, when he would fly off the handle when people would call him chicken. And maybe this was something I learned from my dad, who was a challenging man at times. Although one thing I'll tell you what, he's darn honest, or he was stuck to that. So even on the trading floor, I was able to handle when I lost money or things didn't go my way. But when I saw stuff where someone was intentionally trying to hurt someone by being dishonest, that was always a tough one for me to take. And anyway, so there's my thoughts on Fed Evans. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to you, Janet Yellen. I'm going to turn your face off for the weekend, because even with the low interest rates, mortgage payments are increasingly unaffordable, which means basically anything that any of these guys say, take with a grain of salt and instead enjoy. I'm not going to accept your cookies right now, but maybe after I get to know the site a little bit. I am digging Maria Nikolova, especially some of these articles where the Department of Justice names 34 witnesses in a lawsuit against ex-JP Morgan traders. Wow. The criminal proceedings against former JP Morgan traders accused of spoofing continue. And let's look at some of the witnesses. Here's Michael Bressler, JP Morgan, testify regarding his experience as a supervisor on the commodity sales team, interacting with the defendants and other members of JP Morgan's precious metals desk during the relevant period. There's Claudia, member of commodity sales team, former JP Morgan. And if she's as upset with JP Morgan as some of the other folks I hear, she's going to testify regarding the processes for compliance certifications and code of conducts. Wow. There's John Edmonds. We know about him. Here's Corey Flom, who came over from Bear Stearns, and you can see a whole list of other exciting witnesses. CME, JP Morgan, FBI. He is one of the case agents and will testify regarding his participation in the investigation, including a consensual interview with the defendant Jordan, and discuss various documents obtained during the investigation, among other topics. Wow, that is exciting. Here, David Petty from my former Susquehanna International Group. He is a victim witness who will testify regarding Susquehanna's algorithmic trading in precious metals futures contracts at certain points during the relevant period for the superseding indictment. Now, I had wondered if Susquehanna knew what was really going on here, and now we know that they do. Susquehanna, well, reminds me of my dad in a sense, you know, not always so cuddly, yet you learn some important things. So this means that Susquehanna knows the silver market is manipulated. And the reason that is intriguing is that how Susquehanna was started, these guys were good, really good at statistics, and they were college buddies, and they would go to the racetrack and win because they understood the math better than everyone else. That was what led to them starting Susquehanna, where an advanced understanding of option theory worked out pretty well for them. I remember a couple of times in recent years, I thought about connecting Eric Sprott with them just because it's like, if you really wanted to take this thing down, how would you do it? You know, then I focused on my own efforts for a while, but interesting to see that Susquehanna is aware that not only aware of it testifying in court. Wow. Now, the only unfortunate news, I heard this was delayed. You're not going to believe this. We'll have a video that digs a little deeper in. But apparently the four criminal defendants, Greg Smith, Michael Novak, Jeffrey Rubio, and Christopher Jordan of JP Morgan, was supposed to happen this October, but the trial got delayed because, and I'm going through the documentation, but I got delayed because the courtroom, due to COVID regulations, can only house 3 criminals at once. And this is 4. And obviously with COVID pandemic, government created, raging throughout the nation, they couldn't find anywhere else. So it's been delayed until next July, while the crime continues to occur. But that's okay. Arcadians are on it. And I thank you for your support. I thank you, Silver Viper, for your support. Here's how you can contact Silver Viper if you want to find out how they've supported us or what they are doing, why they would support a show that digs into the criminal behavior in the silver market that affects anyone who uses electronics, especially the economies where silver is a major export. Now, you know how seriously the U.S. takes their exports to the degree that they rig currencies around the globe. It's okay. Good things happening behind the scenes. I love you all. Thank you. Viva Silver. Go have a great weekend. Don't watch too many Arcadia videos. And with that said, I will see you again soon.